This week on the Grassroots podcast.
What is this whole anabolic window? You know, if I don't have that protein shake directly after that last rep, I've lost all my gains. I really want to use that knowledge to shed some light on the industry because it has gotten to a point now because there is no regulation. It's not safe for athletes. It's not safe for health. And I want to bring some reputability back into it.
What about beer?
Yeah, not the best supplement.
Where did that come from? We're talking about supplements today.
Beer.
So how can I fit beer into my workout regime?
I'm Quincy.
I'm JFK.
I'm Dave.
You're hanging out with us in the Fox Den. Today we've got a special episode. As you see, our friend Jase is here. Usually you just see him at the last 10-15 minutes of the episode, but this is a special episode because it's all about nutrition. So we're hanging out with Jase all episode, getting into the nitty-gritty and knocking out some myths with supplements. Guys, how are we feeling about that?
I'm feeling great. I'm glad that Jase got the call up. He's no longer coming off the bench. He's a starter now.
Starting lineup.
That's very exciting. Very exciting.
No more riding the pine.
Nervous.
Yeah. But I'm excited to crush some of these myths. I know I have a lot of questions about supplements. I'm sure our listeners do as well.
Absolutely. All you athletes out there who are supplementing or not supplementing.
Yeah, so I'm keen for it. Davey?
Yeah. Very keen. I've been big on the supplements. For me, it's just eating food. So keen to learn more.
Absolutely. So I guess the first question would be, does supplements work?
Some of them do, most of them don't. I think is the short answer to that. But I think they hold that role of supplementing a good diet, and you hit on the head, mate, where it's really food first. If you don't have that good foundation, supplements aren't going to have that opportunity to do what they're proposed to do. But like the ratio of what works to what doesn't, you're probably looking at a good 80% that don't and 20% that's proven.
Why is that? Like what? You have athletes taking heaps of supplements. There's so many supplements post, pre, during workouts. How come 80% doesn't work? Why are we taking them then?
It's a lot to do with the regulation within the supplement industry. So realistically, if you want to get something put into the country with a label on it that says what you want to say on it, you take your manufacturing offshore. And whether that's to China, whether that's the United States, if you produce your product over there, the labeling requirements and the testing requirements are so more lax than what is in Australia. You can get anything in, say what you like. It's not like a pharmaceutical product. So it doesn't have to be proven safe, effective for it to be on the shelf. And for your local supplement retailer, even your local supermarket now, to have it on there, you can read the back of the packet and read some fantastic claims. But, the evidence behind those and the proof behind that, it's just not there.
Funny that you say it's easy to get it into the country, because if you look at the price, you would think it's quite difficult.
Yeah.
That was the first thing I noticed when I came here, was how expensive supplements were. It's ridiculous. But then again, are we buying the quality, import, export taxes? I don't know. That was the first thing. Every time I went to a supplements shop, I would always pull the American accent. I would try to pull it off hard. So then I'd be like, "Oh, you're from America?" Yeah. I'm like, "Yeah, it's so much more expensive here." "Oh man, let me give you a 10% discount." or give samples.
We picked some up at Walmart, right?
Oh yeah.
$9.
Yeah, when me and Dave were in Quebec, that was the first thing we noticed. We saw protein, a big tub of it for $20. We're like, obviously it works. Come on.
To go back what you were saying on topic, you said pharmaceutical versus supplement, I think.
Yeah.
So are vitamins pharmaceutical or supplement?
Oh, they're more supplement based, but they're kind of sitting on the fence with that as well. Okay. So a little bit more tightly regulated. But I was kind of more referring to sports supplements, ergogenic aids, a lot of things in terms of amino acids, thermogenics. There's a lot of pre-workout products, things that play around with hormonal profiles. You're blocking estrogen, cortisol blockers, whether you're trying to boost testosterone. There's so much on there. And for you guys, in terms of an athlete perspective, and for the guys listening as well, it's risky. And you could potentially, if you get to the highest level and you're getting tested, there's a 4-year ban waiting for you if you run the gauntlet and you test positive. And it's not your fault. generally speaking. It's inadvertent. It's come from contamination at some point along the line. But you've got 4 years on the sideline, and that's where you can't even train. You can't even go to a facility to train. So your development is gone. You may as well say, depending on what stage of your career you're at, you can write a hell of a lot of that off. So,
alrighty, so let's dive into this. We're going to be, like we said, cracking some myths and going through that. But most of the time, the first thing people get whenever they think about supplements is protein. Like they're working out, they're doing whey protein,
or meat protein.
There's so many proteins and there's so many kinds of them. Can you break down what a protein is and I guess what is it doing when it enters our body?
Yeah. Absolutely. So protein, it's the most well-known nutrient there is out there because of protein powders. It's that rebuilding, recovery, repair aspect of what it can provide you. Do you need a protein powder? I think if you could structure your diet very, very well, you're going to get the same amount of protein. What supplements will offer in that aspect for you is convenience, but because of the way they're broken down, they're going to get into your system a lot quicker for that rebuilding, recovery aspect and start that process straight away for you as well. So you can get that adaptation and enhancement and keep progressing. So they do hold a role. I struggle in my profession in terms of other dietitians that may not have that sporting dietitian qualification or background, where they will flat out say that protein powders are not necessary. And they argue that you're adding a lot of calorie content into the diet, especially if someone's trying to maybe lose weight as well. Whilst that's true.
Also known as shredding, right?
Also known as shredding, cutting, whatever you want to do it.
Hashtag shred life, right?
But, you know, they can hold a role, but there has to be balance within what you're having. So obviously too much of anything is going to go overboard. It's how you structure it in there, but I think they do hold a role. They are proven for those performance benefits as well. There's a lot of strong research behind them. So it's using them and using them appropriately. And unfortunately, what's on the back of the label and what information's out there and generally in retail settings is far from it.
So talking about, usually I reach for the protein shake supplement right after the workout because, and you see everyone at the gym doing it, it's always that post.
The window.
The window.
Yeah.
So I really want to talk about the window.
The window,
but it is, what time frame are we talking? And when you say the supplements are a little quicker to get into your system than food, that comes down to window. So what's the importance of that?
Absolutely.
It's a good myth. A Mythbuster.
And these are all questions that I get commonly as well. What is this whole anabolic window? You know, if I don't have that protein shake directly after that last rep, I've lost all my gains. That's what it is. You know? There's no gains after that, and you've seen those Facebook memes of that massive bodybuilding, just like I miss my gains. Anabolic window, and it's
so true.
It's so far overstated. It's been taken like far too. Far too much. So really, if you have that protein in that supplement form, if you have that in a 60-minute period after you finish, you're going to get those same results. You're not going to be at any detriment from that, but you could also have a whole meal within that time frame and get similar benefits. It's just that difference of that speed of absorption, because that stuff is broken down. It's pre-digested in a way so that you can absorb it and it can get to work.
So we talked about the longest you can go, that window, but is there an advantage of taking it quicker? Like let's say 5 minutes after your workout compared to at the 45-minute mark?
What about during? Like if a long workout is an hour, when you do that first rep of your first set, doesn't need it right then? Or before, I've heard about loading up on protein before your workout as well. Like, why does it always have to be right after?
Yeah, there's a theory if you load up beforehand, because whenever you're training, we're tearing down our muscles so that we can rebuild them, recover and repair, but we get a super compensation. So what that is, you will actually get an added effect because your body's in shock. The response of your body is to go, I don't want that to happen again. So I'm going to rebuild and repair to where I was, but a little bit more. And that's why you train. You want that response to it. So if you're building or breaking down fibers while you're training, the theory is if you've got those amino acids from the protein supplement in your bloodstream, instead of taking it from your muscle fibers and losing muscle mass potentially, you're going to take it from what's in your bloodstream. Now, the theory and evidence are a little bit removed at this point in time. Even extending this to something like an amino acid supplement during training, intra-workout supplements. So branched chain amino acids are the biggest thing you'll see. And the biggest myth and a lot of controversy, especially in the CrossFit realm, that I'm going to say right now, is that you're really working in reverse to what you want to do.
Okay.
So what happens is when you're training, you want to break down. You want that breakdown phase so that you can have that super compensation effect. You can recover and then become a little bit better than what you were. You need that breakdown phase. But if you have a branched chain amino acid, one of those amino acids specifically called leucine, you will trigger your protein synthesis pathway whilst you're training. So you won't ever fully enter that breakdown phase. You won't get the full benefits of what you're training. You're stopped that breakdown phase and started that rebuilding recovery phase and limiting what you're doing. It makes no sense to do that while you're training. But
Doing wrong.
$80 for a container of branched chain amino acids, and the theory sounds fantastic. Behind it, it's counterintuitive.
So would that be, sorry, Johnny.
Yeah, keep going.
Would that be, so you got to take it post protein then?
Yes.
Like, so workout protein, or protein when you're working out maybe.
Complete protein after you're working
Complete
out.
protein after.
Absolutely.
BCA aminos after that.
No BCAAs. See, that's
Not
the thing.
at all.
If you've got a good quality protein supplement, most notably something from a dairy product, so whey proteins, are naturally extremely high in branched chain amino acids.
Yeah.
So you can save yourself a hell of a lot of money by just using that, and you get the same effect, because those branched chain amino acids, specifically that leucine amino acid, will trigger that genetic protein synthesis pathway and get you what you want in terms of that rebuilding recovery effect. The other thing is with branched chains, if you've got them in isolation, that's only 3 amino acids in that branched chain supplement. Yes, they're in very high concentrations in your muscle mass, but the problem is, without every other amino acid there, you can't start that rebuilding recovery.
I hear you saying a lot about amino acids. What are amino acids?
They are the building blocks to a protein. They are the foundation to a protein. So one protein is made up of a full collection of amino acids within themselves. Yeah.
And just for our listeners, Jason, can you, because right now you are rattling off some major facts. It's awesome. But let's give them, what's your background, just so people know. So it's not like you just watch a bunch of YouTube videos,
start rambling.
And he starts rambling. No, this guy knows his stuff. So just a quick background on.
Absolutely. So my qualifications stem from, first and foremost, a dietitian, and then getting the extra add-on qualifications of a sports dietitian. So we need to know supplements as a baseline. But prior to that, I had 6 years where I worked within the production side of the supplementation industry for a major company. It's a tight-knit community within Australia. So everyone knows what everyone else is doing or what they're not doing to get where it needs to be. So I really want to use that knowledge to shed some light on the industry, because it has gotten to a point now, because there is no regulation. It's not safe for athletes. It's not safe for health. And I want to bring some reputability back into it. I think it should be, because if you're putting something into your body in terms of a purified substance, you want to know what that is.
Exactly.
You really want to know.
So I guess coming from the side of the person actually producing these supplements for the athletes, would you say, and not completely bashing your competitors, but would you say that they're not necessarily for the athlete, that they're just for profit?
Absolutely. The first and foremost is cost. It's how can I get the most out of it? So how can I get that raw material and that raw ingredient cost down so I can get a bigger margin?
Yeah, wow.
It is. And how then, the second thing is marketability. How can I make my product look fantastic and make the back of the label look even better in terms of the numbers
Yeah,
on
it's
it as
easy
well?
to just get a nice model on Instagram.
The model on
Take a bunch
Instagram.
of pictures
Take
with
pictures. Yep.
Absolutely. I was going to ask you, Quincy, if you could.
Pose for that. No, alrighty, yeah.
So I guess going back to the proteins. So if you could break them down, I guess really basic for our listeners.
Yeah.
If they were going into a store today, what are the proteins that they're going to see? Are they going to see whey, concentrate, isolate? Which ones are the
Plant protein, meat protein.
I guess in general,
absolutely.
what would be the main ones that you would see?
Main one, whey proteins. Everyone have seen those out there. So you've got different varieties with different absorption profiles. Whey protein concentrate, it is one of the cheapest versions of whey proteins. It's got a higher fat content. It's got a higher sugar content, natural sugars from the lactose dairy itself.
Okay.
From that whey protein concentrate, you move to a whey protein isolate. So they further remove sugar content. They further remove fat content. Because of that, you got a higher protein content.
Now, when you say they remove, is this a process that they go through? Is it just refining it pretty much in the lab, or?
Yeah, ultrafiltration.
Okay.
To get this down as well and remove that content. And then there's another range as well that's a hydrolyzed whey protein isolate. So it takes it a step further where you had those big protein molecules, you're breaking it down into those little amino acids so it goes straight in your bloodstream.
Okay.
So there's three ranges with that. On the flip side of that, the other protein within dairy products is casein.
Yep.
That's that slow digesting protein. If everyone's gone, I need that protein shake before I go to bed overnight to get those gains going for you as well.
Gains.
Yeah.
Gains.
Casein's the thing because 6 to 8 hours it takes to break down in your stomach. It's long.
So how much can we absorb? How much protein can we absorb? I'm seeing on usually whey protein, typically a scoop is about 25 grams of protein.
Yeah.
I've also heard the theory of a good sized chicken breast is about 25 to 30 grams of protein.
Yeah.
How much can the body absorb at one time of this protein?
There is a ceiling, and this whole too much is going to be wasted. So generally speaking, 20 to 25 grams in normal circumstances of protein that you can absorb. So that's 100 grams worth of most meat products. So chicken breast, 100 grams, you're looking at 28 grams of protein. Scale that back to red meat, you're down to 25. Down to fishes, depending on what type fish, 25, 22 grams. So 100 grams of a meat product, basically, you may as well say, is going to give you a basic maximum for protein.
For how long?
Yeah.
For how long? You really want to space that protein content around about your 3 to 4 hour mark.
3 to 4 hours.
Yeah. It's more so about how many times throughout the day can you trigger that protein synthesis pathway. There's a limit, really. It's 4 times throughout the day. So you want 4 occasions throughout the day where you're getting that amount of protein throughout the day, and you've maxed out your potential in terms of being able to absorb and utilize protein.
So listeners, guys, if you have to, pause this, write this stuff down, because I'm taking notes as we're speaking, because this is good
Likewise.
stuff. So absorb, as we're talking about absorb this into your minds, because these are things that you guys can take with you. It's been researched. The research is out there. The information's out there. So we want to make sure you guys are taking this with you.
Absolutely.
So I guess moving on with that. So if there is a ceiling, say if you go above that ceiling, your body just turns it into waste, gets rid of it. So is it better to almost kind of exceed that ceiling knowing that you're getting the most out of it? Or can your body actually capacitate being able to absorb more of it?
You would, in most circumstances, in general circumstances, you will get rid of that. You can't absorb that. So it depends on how much energy content within your diet or calorie content. So if you've exceeded how much you need, that will get converted to body fat. It's quite a hard process for your body to do, but it will happen. The alternate pathway, which is also quite hard, is to use it for energy to power your body. There's one caveat to that window of how much protein you can absorb, and that's post-training in terms of your gym training, or that's post your competition, whatever it might be. So your body knows that you're in a state of breakdown. It wants to rebuild and repair quite quickly. You will upregulate how much protein you can absorb. So that ceiling goes up to 40 grams of what you can absorb post-training.
Okay.
So the window is a little bit more there, but it's not as much as what people think. So the 300 gram T-bone at your local pub, you're probably around about 70 to 80 grams of protein. There's a lot of that you're not using, a lot of waste.
And what part of your body is handling this protein? Is it taxing on a certain organ or?
Yeah, absolutely. Everything goes to your liver first. It's basically the post office of your body.
Yeah.
But the one thing when you metabolize protein, there's a waste product, and that's nitrogen. Nitrogen's toxic to your body if you've got too much within there. So your kidneys are the biggest filter within your body. They're going to work overtime to pump that through. So looking at risk of high protein intakes, anyone who's got a problem with their kidneys, it's something you've really got to monitor. So most young, healthy people, it's fine. We can regulate, and your kidneys just pump a bit harder. You know, there's no evidence at the moment to suggest it's harmful. Saying that, I've seen protein intakes where it's 3, 4, even 5 times how much you can have each day. There's anecdotal reports of bodybuilders mostly who are having that amount of protein that are going into liver and even kidney failure.
Oh, wow.
So nothing is hard and fast. Nutrition is such a young science.
Okay.
So in terms of what evidence is there, sometimes it's a little bit sketchy, but I mean, there's things to be worried about.
Yeah, so if alcohol doesn't do it, protein definitely will.
Yeah.
So now you're talking about youth, we're talking about age. So now let's get into that question.
Actually, before you get into that, I want on protein real quick. Can you just talk about the other proteins that we'll see in a store?
Absolutely.
Because when I've gone into different supplement shops and say like I'm lactose, I can't do the whey thing, then they'll point me to either plant protein, usually a pea protein, or they'll point me to this nasty, gross meat protein. So yeah, so just not go super deep into it, just elaborate on those other proteins that we're going to see.
Absolutely. So plant proteins, rice, pea, and soy. Those are the 3 things you're going to see. But if you're going to go down that road, because plant proteins aren't the quality of what a whey protein is, you've got to be smart about how you combine them so you can improve that quality. So if you're going down that road, if you've got rice and pea, if you join those together with a rice and pea protein supplement, you've got a decent quality protein.
Yeah, right.
But if they're individual, because they're both plant-based and lower quality, they're not going to do the same job. They're not going to be anywhere near it. Soy is not too bad. There's a whole nother story behind soy products and what they could do
to male.
Hormonally, to men and including your testosterone levels to be able to build lean muscle mass. That's a whole show within itself in terms of soy products. The other thing you mentioned, beef protein, which really does sound quite strange to a lot of people, getting some beef protein. And there's another one called colostrum, which is on the market now.
Because my wife and I recently had a baby. I've heard of that word before.
It is, and that's the when the secretion is coming out of the mammal, it's the first part of it. It's higher in certain types of proteins, immunoglobulins, that are fantastic for your immune system mostly, but there's not much evidence behind them, and the thought of colostrum is enough to turn some people off.
And the thing about Jason, you should probably be a politician. The way he handled that so politically correct. Like I was about to say,
we're voting for you.
Yep. So.
You'll be the candidate that we vote for in America.
Look out, Donald.
Yeah,
that's right. Huge. So back to your question about kids.
Yeah.
Pretty much. When should kids start taking it? At what age is it a safe age, and how should they go about it?
Question of do you need them? I would put a real question mark on need. They do provide some benefit, I think, for convenience in terms of their absorption capacity.
Yep.
But if you're under 15 years of age, don't go near them. Your liver is nowhere near fully formed enough to handle these things. So if you're under 15, don't even look sideways at them as a health perspective. Even I'd round that up to 18 years of age. Yeah. I don't even go that way because your liver can still be forming at that point.
Yeah, right.
Taking it into older age, quite an interesting thing because our bodies naturally start to break down. We need more protein. So recommended dietary intake, 0.8 of a gram per kilogram of body weight. That's what you're looking at for the base population that covers 98% of the population's need, but doesn't take into account extra requirements for training, for physical activity. You've got a higher load on there as well. So your requirements with heavy training and competition load can go up to 2 grams per kilo of body weight. If you're an older adult, that 0.8 of a gram, that's going up to about 1.2 of a gram. So get your body weight, times it by that, really look into how much you're having, and see whether that supplement fits in there. It can hold a place. It really, really can, but it's a supplement. It really has to take that realm. It's no replacement for a good base nutrition.
Absolutely. So knowing for myself, like when I start really getting into my season of lifting, which is like an on and off thing for Q, when I really get in that season.
We'll delve into that a little bit later.
Hops on. I'm going hard, guys. Snapchat's going good. I'm in the gym every day.
And then like the Instagram picture of the weight in the shoe. Yeah. But with that, like I get into really getting frustrated, not because of inconsistency, as it may sound after that last comment, but you just see so many people recommending so many different things in regards to what we're taking, comparing it with the diet. I guess, can you just talk about that? Like, what should we be taking? And does it matter that we're taking maybe a certain amount of protein versus a whey protein versus a meat protein if we're trying to shred? Or should we be taking a different kind of carb rather from oats if we're trying to bulk rather from maybe bread? Can you just talk about that? Like, does it really matter, all these different things, like counting our macros and all that stuff? Or is it just the body and you just play around with it until you figure it out?
That whole saying, if it fits your macros, drives me up the wall, to be honest.
My wife went to like a massive, like, if it fits your macro binge. Yeah. It was so annoying. I did learn a lot, but it was so annoying. Yeah.
Think of it this way. We're very similar to a car. Okay. So food and drink going in is petrol, and that's measured in calories. Okay. Whenever we burn petrol content, we're burning calories. We've got that added ability with humans to strap on extra fuel tanks. So if we're putting too much into our system that we're not burning, we strap on extra fuel tanks, and that's excess body weight. So too much of anything is going to be a problem, and it is how much calories go into your body compared to how much burns. So it's quantity, it's volume, and not so much looking at what those calories are. That's a secondary focus, but looking at your body composition, first and foremost, if you want to alter that, you have to play with that and manipulate that ratio, because otherwise nothing will happen. Everything has a value towards it. So a carbohydrate, a protein, or a fat. We are carbon-based organisms, okay? So carbon, an element, it's attached to every food, and that's what we burn. So all of those nutrients go into our system with those little carbon atoms on them. We breathe oxygen in, chemical reaction, we breathe out carbon dioxide as a waste product. If we've got less carbon going in, we have to use those extra fuel tanks, which are made up of carbons. And that's all it is. It has to come from somewhere. It's a very simple equation that got very, very complicated for no good reason. It really, really didn't. The reason that there is such an obesity epidemic now is because food is very, very concentrated in calories, all those little carbons, and we're not moving. We're not burning them up. So those extra fuel tanks are just piling on.
Yeah.
So I see the point where other dietitians are saying that these supplements are adding extra calories to your diet, which means if you're trying to lose body weight or lose body fat, it's counterintuitive. You're just adding more into there. It needs to be structured. It needs to replace something. You need to factor it in. You need to count it. Use it for what it is. Use it for the convenience, use it for the absorption profile, and use it for the quality of that protein, and structure it, because there is evidence behind them to say that they will give you better results as a supplement to a good diet.
Wow.
Yeah. This is bam, bam. I go to chemistry class. I go to the gym. And see, these are the conversations. I just think about whenever you go to when you go to those nutritional stores and you have like the meathead behind the counter. Sorry for all the meatheads behind the counter. and they just rattle off facts like this, but not to this extent.
That's right. Everyone's working for a living. We all need jobs.
Yeah. So, but it's just crazy. But going back to another myth. Milk versus water when taking your protein shake.
Ooh, good myth. I like this one.
Which one's better?
This one.
Which one's better? If there is one better. And
can I give
and what are your thoughts about milk? Because a lot of people have their say that life should be had without it. Like, as in, we're the only mammals that drink another mammal's milk. So
we are. That's a very good point. And
okay.
Oh wait, it's back to Q. Q feels left out.
Yep. I was gonna make just a random joke on milk, but sticking to my question, which I forgot.
I thought were you gonna answer it?
No, I was gonna say, I've heard. Why would I just do that? Why would I just let him talk? But I've heard that when you're trying to bulk, it's better to have milk because like it doesn't get absorbed in your body as fast as water, and like water's thinner. So when you're trying to shred, then you would use protein with water to kind of let it flow better, quicker.
Almost there.
Almost there. See, I've been studying, guys.
So, water compared to milk. First and foremost, the protein shake, water compared to milk. If you have it with water, it's going to be absorbed much, much quicker. It's slowed down when you have it with milk, is because you've got a fat content in there. You've got the casein part of that protein within the milk naturally, which is going to slow that absorption time down. You've got extra normal, naturally occurring sugars within that milk. That all slows it down considerably. So if you're looking at a meal replacement type of an idea, something throughout the day that's quick, that's convenient, where you don't have any opportunity to have a meal, you'd have it with the milk to slow that absorption time down. But post-training, when you want it in your system quick, use it as it's designed, have it with the water so it gets in there and starts that rebuilding recovery.
But it doesn't taste as good.
Does not taste anywhere near as good. Because
I like how you say it like you said it, but it doesn't taste as good.
Yep.
Quincy, you're right.
And that's because,
the camera.
Well, you're taking the fat out.
Yeah.
Fat is flavour. Sugar amplifies that flavour. So both of those are removed to give you just a straight protein. As an example, if you guys ever had or tried a branched chain amino acid or any amino acid supplement without any flavouring in it, it's harsh. You can barely tolerate it. So in a clinical setting, there is a product that's that hydrolyzed whey protein. So it's literally broken down into the little amino acids, and it's in a hospital setting. It's used for people that needs foods that go straight into your bloodstream that don't take any processing because their liver is basically shot.
Okay.
They can't tolerate it. It is so bad. Really, really bad. So there's a point where it becomes, if you're not going to even have it, there's no point.
Yeah, right.
Now, back to dairy and where that kind of sits. So, no, we weren't, I don't think, meant to start drinking cow's milk because it's from a cow, essentially. But what's happened over time in specifically Western cultures, because we've kept having it and it's become such a staple food, we've developed the enzyme to break down the sugar within milk. So the lactase enzyme. This is the evidence behind. This is where you'll see that anyone of an Asian heritage, because they haven't had that Western upbringing that's been so heavily built on dairy products, they can't handle it. They're lactose intolerant. The majority of them are. So because they haven't had that evolutionary mechanism where we've gotten used to it, it's a problem. So I see if you've got no problem with handling that lactose sugar in there, that's a big tick, because what you will get from dairy products are the high source of calcium within your diet.
Okay.
1 glass of milk compared to a kilo of spinach for a calcium equivalencies.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's huge. Absolutely huge. So I'd go with it if you don't have a problem with it. And even if you do have a problem with it, there's products now that have got that lactase enzyme put into them. So Liddell's, big shout out to Liddell's. They make a milk lactose free. That enzyme breaks down that sugar for you, so you don't have to worry about it. You still get the calcium benefits. You get the quality protein benefits of dairy. You don't have any of the side effects.
All right.
So food technology is fantastic for what you get from it. If you've got no side effects, go that way, because you're going to be missing out on some big nutrients.
And just hopping in there still with the milk, homogenization.
Yes.
Does that take away any of the nutrients that you just mentioned? Does it take any away of the casein or any of those proteins, or no?
None whatsoever. So homogenization is distributing the fat content within the milk evenly. So, you know, when you used to get the old school milk, well, probably you don't know because you're not that old, but
actually I have. I used to live when I was in Canada.
Troy.
When I was in Canada, we lived on a dairy
That's
farm.
a Troy. Sure.
It wasn't a dairy. Yeah, shout out to Troy. Troy's he'll love this because he does listen to the podcast. But no, it was just we had cows on the farm, but they're more for like cattle. It's like, cut them, chop them up, eat them. But not so much like a dairy farm. Sorry, guys. But so I have had like real milk though before, and how it separates, and you kind of have that like thick layer. It would be the thicker.
Got the cream,
the cream at the top.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so back to the homogenization. But a quick story down memory lane.
Myth busted. There's no difference that way. It's just distributing it through for an even appearance and an even mouthfeel throughout the whole drink. And that's what it's designed to do. But you're not losing out. But I always encourage people, and this is another thing, to go for a reduced fat or a skim milk product because of the type of fats within dairy products. It's predominantly that saturated fat. saturated fats will increase risk. And it is risk. It's a 2-stage process for heart disease development later on in life. So that's the issue in terms of full fat dairy products.
Don't put me at risk.
So we're talking about milk, kind of the trendy thing right now, but what about almond milk? Does that have any health benefits? For me, I'm lactose. I love almond milk. I do the almond milk thing. How is that?
Compared to milk itself?
Yeah, compared to milk itself. Because you see a lot of that now, even cashew milk, rice milk.
Oh, there's milk out of everything now. Like, they're really, it's surprising what's coming out. I look at it and it's like milk. But nutrient profile, glass of almond milk compared to a glass of, say, skim milk. Okay, 2 grams of protein for almond milk, 8 grams for the skim milk. The quality of that protein goes from roughly a 70% up to 80, 85%.
For the almond milk's the 80, 85.
Almond milk's lower.
Oh, lower, right.
Yeah, because it's from that plant-based origin. It doesn't have a good...
But nuts are high in fat, not protein necessarily though, right?
Nuts have got a higher fat content than protein, but the quality of that protein. So the amino acid content within that actual food is lower. You get a higher content of amino acids to make it a better quality protein within that dairy product. Depending on your goals, almond milk can have up to 3 grams of fat per serve, which is a glass. Skim milk, 0.3 of a gram of fat. So if you want to decrease fat content, there's a really good way to do it. Carbohydrate content, skim milk's got more. I'm assuming it's not a flavoured milk. So you're looking at 2 to 3 grams for a cup of almond milk for carbohydrate content. The natural milk sugars in milk, you're going up to about 12 to 13 grams. So it depends on your goal. If someone really, really likes almond milk in their diet, I can make that up somewhere else because it's not a huge difference unless you're going to be having 2 or 3 litres of almond milk a day and chugging it down.
Yeah, right.
But nutrient profile wise, what you're going to get, I always push back. If you can handle that milk product, go with it. And even not, use that food technology that breaks down that lactose.
Absolutely.
Sugar.
This episode's all about... Oh, go ahead. Go.
Yeah.
Oh, I've got this is all good stuff. I've just been listening for a while.
Yeah.
But I got a few, I probably got 5 myths I'd like debunked.
I was going to say, I have a couple myths I want debunked. Overtime, here we go.
Overtime, I'm going to start with my protein one. Now, it comes in the big tub. It can come in a massive tub.
Yeah.
Generally, it comes in you get the big tub, and it's usually black or not see-through. And I've heard that's because the light can affect it. But I know my protein's usually sometimes left in the car. It can get really hot. Am I killing my protein before it even gets in the body?
Wow, that's
Absolutely.
a good one.
Absolutely. So what happens is the structure of a protein, basically think of it nice and complete, nice and whole. Yeah. But if it's subject to heat, it will start to break down. It'll start to degrade, and it's called denaturing of that protein. So the quality of that protein reduces rapidly. So dark cupboard, cool, dry place, under 30 degrees is what you want in the car. Is absolutely killing off the quality of that protein supplement. Absolutely.
So if it's been in the hot car once, it's done? I can throw out my protein?
I only take once, I'll get a new batch.
Okay. I'm going to skip...
A bunch of supplement companies just love that.
I'm going to skip to the eggs. You were telling me earlier on, off the air, that eggs is your A premium for protein.
Absolutely.
I've heard a myth, potentially, that the egg yolks are not good for the body. You can only handle so many of those a day or a week.
Yep.
Do we want to be focusing on the egg whites, or can we just have 10 hard boiled eggs a day? Is that bad for us?
Depends on your goal. So most of the fat content within the egg is within the yolk.
Yeah.
Within themselves, eggs have a high cholesterol level naturally occurring. So for people that don't have cholesterol problems, your body will regulate if you're having more from a dietary source, and your liver is what produces the cholesterol inside your body. It'll downregulate how much it's producing. So the guidelines now have been very much changed to going, you're only allowed a certain amount of eggs each day. They've relaxed them because you should be able to naturally adjust within your body how much of that cholesterol is produced. But if you've got high cholesterol and your liver isn't appropriately regulating that, and you're adding a high cholesterol food into it, another thing, high cholesterol, something like prawns. really high cholesterol levels. So you want to be avoiding those foods or decreasing that intake because your liver's not playing ball with you as well. If you're looking to gain size because of that extra fat content, heavy calorie content, I'd say load up on the whole eggs and you'll be fine. If you just want protein content, pure and simple, a quality protein content, then it's time to start splitting them up. And you need to be sensitive about how much calorie goes in and have your whites.
Gotcha.
Absolutely.
That's good. And I guess getting a little bit more deeper into it, I know when they say cholesterol, you have LDLs and HDLs.
Yes.
So now HDLs are your good cholesterol?
HDL is good. So HDL your liver produces cholesterol. Your LDL cholesterol will travel from your liver and deposit cholesterol out to the periphery tissues. HDL is produced and it brings the cholesterol from the periphery back to the liver for processing, and then it's excreted from the body. So those are the two jobs of what they do that way in terms of good and bad cholesterol.
So now would, I guess, the egg yolk have more HDL or LDL when we talk about a high cholesterol content?
Egg yolks themselves have around about 6 grams of fat content within them. Of that, only 30% is saturated fat, which will directly stimulate the bad cholesterol production. Unless you're having 10 eggs a day, I wouldn't say you're going to be boosting up your LDL significantly, comparing it to something like a red meat product. So 100 grams of beef product not trimmed off of the fat is around about 8 grams of fat, and about 6 of that's saturated. So even full cream dairy products, full cream milk, 8 grams of fat, at least 6 of that's going to be your saturated fats as well. So when you compare it to the other foods, it's not as bad, but it's how much.
Yeah.
It's how much, and looking at the rest of your diet as well. Yeah.
When I hear cholesterol, I think heart attack.
Heart attack, yeah.
Is that the direct link, clogging up the heart?
It's a 2-phase process, and this is why there's such a movement now for people to say it's not so bad. So what happens is that LDL cholesterol is produced in your liver, it travels out to the periphery. The second step for heart disease development, that little LDL cholesterol particle, it needs to be oxidized. For that to happen, it needs stress. So whether you're stressed lifestyle, work, family, training is stress, eating food causes oxidative stress on your body, breathing car fumes outside causes oxidative stress. So in a Western society, we've got a lot of stresses on our body, and that's why if you've got more of that LDL cholesterol in your system, your risk of that being oxidized and starting that process is higher than, say, the monk in Tibet who lives a completely Zen lifestyle and has no stress.
And has no gains either.
Yeah. and he hasn't even got any gains. So.
No gains.
I'm going to go off protein a little bit and talk, I know on our team and most teams these days, pre-workout.
Get it everywhere. Get it.
That's probably a whole nother episode in itself.
Oh yeah.
But I'd say at least half the guys are taking a pre-workout before the game, a lot in between periods. I've had some before, and for me, I find they're great, but then the body kind of gets used to them, and they're
see, like I've had them before games, and I can't do it. Because I'm kind of a hyper person anyways, and especially with, before game time, I'm really bumping. And then if I take that, I have the jitters. I'm just like squirrel, and it's just bad. Yeah. But then also I've taken pre-workout, and I'm a person, I like the tingling feeling. Yeah. Like I know it's kicking in. I know I'm about to have a big lift when I get the tingles. I don't know I forgot what part of it actually gives that to you, but if it gives you a good neck scratch, that's the stuff.
I've taken some stuff recently that had me just scratching my eyeballs. It's whoa, I'm tripping here.
And he laced it with something.
Another level. Man. It had a great workout though.
Do not trust the guy with the shopping cart behind Woolies.
You got the gains up.
Yeah, I got the gains. But in regards to what he's saying, I've also noticed when I didn't finish my pre-workout on time, it got hard, and I couldn't use it anymore. Maybe I could. I don't know. Talk to us about that. Why does pre-workout get hard?
Okay, so the actual
thermogenics. I felt there's a second thermogenic that I use that got hard too.
Yep, water content will get into as soon as you open that packet. The water content gets in. and powdered-based supplements. It'll change the profile of them, and it will go crusty, it will go hard. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to affect the quality of it. I'd argue that pre-workouts don't have quality in them anyway. The two things that you've described there, what will make someone keep coming back to pre-workouts? Massive stimulant kick. So whether that's caffeine, a botanical, or any caffeine derivative, all of those things work in a pyramid up to your adrenal glands. So you got two of these little glands, produce adrenaline, it's your fight or flight response. It produces rapid energy. It's pushing the go button really for you, and that's why you get that massive kick. But it's too much. There's a limit to this of how much you can use them, the quantity as well, because if you keep belting those little glands, eventually they stop working. And I'm seeing people now where because they stop working, it goes into a phase that actually mimics type 2 diabetes, the way the body's handling the rest of your nutrients as well. That's a danger. The second ingredient gives you the tingling that makes you want to scratch your eyes out. That's called beta-alanine. So they know that if someone has that feeling within a pre-workout, it's that psychological feel that you mentioned, it's working. The tingles, it's working. So the tingles is called paresthesis. Yeah.
That last rep in?
It's a psychological thing. And that's what will keep you coming back, because you'll keep getting that tingling from probably 2, 3, maybe even 4 weeks. It should dissipate after that point in time. It's just the blood concentrations rising of that beta-alanine amino acid.
Okay.
At this point, it hasn't been proven harmful at all. It's called paresthesis. But some people are affected by it worse than others. I've seen a guy who was bald, admittedly, but literally was scratching his head so severely that he was bleeding by the end of it. He had such a severe reaction to it.
But still kept going back to it?
No. He's never touched it again.
Dedicated.
There's ways around that, and it's looking at how much you take to get the effect. So they load up this supplement to give you that massive tingly kick to make it think that it's working, but it's in excess.
So two that I guess they're not natural, but two pre-workouts, we'll call them, that I find are good is coffee.
Yeah.
And I find a lot of guys will have a coffee before the game. For me, I find black or very little bit, like an instant coffee with just a little bit of milk versus the flat white or something like that.
Yeah.
And I'll be awake, ready to go. But the one I found the last couple of years is a Barocca, like a multivitamin, right before the game. And again, from what I've heard, an uneducated opinion is the vitamin B kick. You're just ready to go. And for me, those two things, I'll have a coffee, work out, and then right before, as I'm getting my gear on, I'll do a Barocca, and that's all I need.
And get you going. Yeah. So at the moment, in terms of the evidence, B vitamins are your energy vitamins, but there's a lot of B vitamins, and if you're missing one of them, it's like a chain, a process to produce energy.
Yeah, wow.
So Barocca has all of those in it. So there hasn't been any evidence to show it actually enhances performance. So far, it's more anecdotal at this stage, but caffeine does. There is heavy evidence behind that, and it's how much you have. So if you're looking at a rate of caffeine to have each day before you're going to get any negative effects, I'm talking jitteriness, insomnia, nausea, irritability, withdrawal symptoms, but more importantly, bone health. It can be very detrimental to that, because to metabolize caffeine, you're actually leaching calcium out of your bones. So too much of it for too long, especially for females, can be dangerous for osteoporosis development later in life.
Wow.
So the things that caffeine will do for you, it'll boost your mental alertness and cognition straight away. It blocks the little receptors that make you want to fall asleep, basically. That's the straight effect of caffeine. Secondly, it will decrease your rate of perceived exertion. So this means that things are going to seem a hell of a lot easier when you're training. So if you're doing a workout, and generally that workout's an 8 out of 10 in terms of how hard it is, you've dropped it down to a 6, maybe a 5. The third thing, which hasn't been shown in everyone, but it can actually help you to mobilize and burn fat as a fuel.
Okay.
It can do this, but it's not for everyone. Some people are more sensitive to it and have that effect. Some people it does nothing to. So you see those people that can have 12, 15 coffees a day and it has no effect on them. they're not responders to caffeine. But some people who can smell caffeine,
that's me,
and they're off the wall. Absolutely.
Drink caffeine all day. The only side effects I get is like headaches if I don't take it.
Yep.
Because I drink it so much. But it doesn't do anything. Like, I could take it.
Hi, my name's Quincy.
8 o'clock at night.
Hi,
if I want to go to bed, I'll go to bed.
So looking at that dosage, so if you're looking at 200, even 300 milligrams of caffeine a day, athletes are using this at around about a base dosage of 6 milligrams per kilo of body weight. And I don't recommend anyone do that, by the way. But if you're looking at current body weight, if you want to throw your current body weight out there, what are you going to do?
91 kilos.
91? Yeah, that's 450 milligrams roughly of caffeine as a base loading to get a really big kick for your performance. But for general health, I would never recommend staying on that for a long period of time.
So how many cups is that? 400. Like, let's say if I was going to do like flat whites all day.
Flat whites all day. So 1 espresso shot, depending on how concentrated it is in caffeine, can be anywhere from 90 to 150 milligrams of caffeine. So generally, it's about 90.
90, and I have a capacity of 400?
Yeah, 450. So
5 coffees.
5 coffees. Yeah, to reach that threshold.
Pretty good then, yeah.
You're doing well.
Yeah, well, all right.
But yeah, I mean, caffeine, it does work. It increases your performance, but everyone builds a tolerance to it. So whether it's caffeine, whether it's a natural derivative of caffeine, like a guarana extract, which does the same job, the same effect, those two things are going to give you that performance. I'd really be wary of botanicals that do this, even things such as a green tea extract. Those types of products are dangerous for other reasons. They're so purified your liver can't handle them. They're taken off the shelves in Europe now because they've been shown in a couple of cases to be actually carcinogenic to your liver.
Yeah, wow.
That's dangerous. But because, again, they're not regulated like pharmaceuticals, and they make a hell of a lot of money.
Once you put in that label, green extract or herbal extract, and everyone thinks it's healthy.
Yeah, exactly. It's such a misconception. But yeah, it really is that. But I think the biggest thing is as well, looking at the back of your label. I mean, first and foremost, probably about 80%, and this is a good estimate from people that have been in the industry a long time, that do the right thing. So 80% of labeling is false on the label. It's not accurate. And there's a few areas behind that. So protein supplements, biggest one. And it's the content of protein in there per gram. So more is more. If I see more protein in there per scoop, I know it's better quality. But is it? There's something called protein spiking, which you can do. So that means if I add in a single amino acid, which is a building block of a whole protein, I can actually get a higher overall protein weight on that label, because the testing for protein is based off one thing. It's how much nitrogen content comes off that protein when it's tested. Every amino acid within that protein gives off nitrogen. So if you're adding in one individual amino acid in higher concentrations, you get more nitrogen, you get a higher protein content. But it's not complete protein. It is not complete. And some of those amino acids are really, really cheap. So I'd encourage everyone to look at their protein supplement and see if there's a high concentration of an amino acid in there. And I wrote them down because I was never going to remember them.
Okay.
But glycine, taurine, glutamine, those three are notorious because they're cheap and they can boost that protein content. But other things...
I feel like I read those on labels all the time. Yeah. Like if you would have said any other thing, I would have been like, nope, doesn't ring a bell. But those three in general, they stand out in my head because I see them each and every time I read a label. And
if they're coming up in big numbers, I'd start to put some serious questions on whether that has actually been spiked. The other things, if it's got added creatine in there as a benefit, you got fantastic, but it could have been added in to that protein content weight. Yeah. And the other one is arginine as well. So all of those are quite cheap.
Okay.
But the problem is you're not getting that per weight. And the question is, how much is a true weight for protein? And really, whether it's an isolate or a concentrate, if you're between 23, 25, 26 grams, you're in the ballpark. But really getting to 27 grams per 30 gram scoop and above, It's not possible. It's really not possible unless you're doing something a little bit sideways. And that's where manufacturing comes into it. There's plenty of tricks of the trade. And labeling is not strict enough to pick those things up, unfortunately.
Yeah, wow. It's massive.
What about beer?
Yeah, not the best supplement.
Where did that come from? We're talking about supplements today.
Beer.
So how can I fit beer into my workout regime?
It's a stretch, but no.
Can I
On a
count those
serious,
macros?
on a serious note, I've heard some things. So, personal story is was living in Calgary playing recreational hockey on the weekend. Done our game, go back home. It's a Saturday. We're having some beers on the deck, and I get a call from a friend of mine whose team was short. Do you want to come back out and play? Yeah, no worries. And all of a sudden, man, I got a lot of energy to burn. Could it have been the beer?
I'd most likely say it probably was the beer. Beer is really, really concentrated in calories. And this is just the unit of alcohol itself. It's not any of the carbohydrate content that might be in a drink. So calories, protein or fat, per gram, 4 calories worth of energy. Okay? That's protein or carbohydrate, not fat, sorry. Fat is 9 calories per gram. It's more than double the calorie content of protein or carbohydrates. Alcohol, just alcohol itself, is 7. Really, really heavily concentrated in alcohol.
And you guys were laughing.
So that is plausible, but what alcohol will also do for you that's of a detriment, it dehydrates you. So remember I said around about that 2% loss in body weight and you're losing 30% of your performance. So it's going to decrease that water content because your kidneys are the thing that is that filtration system. Alcohol itself is considered toxic to cells. So when you have a few drinks, that's why someone is running to the toilet quite soon after. That's gone into overdrive to pump that out of your system. So you're losing fluid volume. So when you're dehydrated, your cognition goes out the window. Decision making, narrow-sighted. I think the biggest thing as well, your recovery and injury risk as well are both negatively affected from alcohol. So there's not too many things in terms of performance that I can say good, but you've given yourself a lot of petrol.
What about, sorry, Q, what about post, after a game, again, a lot of recreational adult sports, people have a beer. Is that doing anything positive to replace something that their body needs after a workout or an exercise like sport?
Satisfy hydration first. If you satisfy your hydration needs first and then have a beer, that's fine. But too many times athletes will go in and they'll have 4, 5 and 6 beers because they're naturally thirsty because they've lost a lot of sweat. They're replacing it with beer. It's such a cultural thing. I don't think it's a bad thing to have in moderation.
Yeah.
But know that if you have too much, detriment to performance.
Do you know how many recreational players are just like cheering in the background?
Yeah. Loving this. All right, guys. Mike, the producer, is giving me the look right now, guys. So we got to wrap this up. We're going to have to do a part 2 of busting myths with nutrition and supplements. Man, what a great show.
Yeah, but I want to keep this conversation going. So I definitely, to all the viewers and everyone that is following us, make sure you guys are asking these questions. We'll get back to you. I mean, Jason will be there. He'll be there to answer your questions. So
make sure it's at Enliven Nutrition. If you guys are asking questions, make sure to tag at Enliven Nutrition. Jason answer all those questions for you. And to wrap things up, if you guys like this, thought it brought you any value, which I know it did, make sure you guys subscribe, press the red button below. Also, if you're listening on iTunes, be sure to subscribe to the podcast. And as well, if this has given you any benefit to your everyday living, make sure you leave us a comment, let us know. Not for our benefit, but like it helped you, let it help someone else. It allows us to get higher on iTunes and allows us to be able to share this content with everybody else. So with that, hope you guys enjoy. See you next time on the Grassroots Podcast.